is happening, y'all? Oh, stadium, it feels so good. It's another football Friday here on Rivals Down South. I am T-Bob Hebert, former LSU Tiger. And, looks like our boy A.J. McCarron may be getting even closer to the NFL playing field once again with the Joe Burrow news. But today, we are joined by one of SEC Mike's partners in crime at Saturday Down South. That's Chris Marler at Burn Funquist. Chris, what's up, dog?
Not much, man. I'm a little bit out of breath because right before we started recording, all three dogs just lost their mind. So I had to scoop them up, put them outside. And so I'm going to sit here and try to just catch my breath very, very nonchalantly while we start the show.
Well, luckily for you, I am going to tilt at windmills. You can call me Bob Coyote because there's something that I've seen percolating in the media, and it's infuriating me. It's making me, And it started with my girl, Caroline Fenton. She's one that most recently triggered me. She's great, young talent, out in Nashville, works for Sirius XM SC Radio. She's awesome, right? But I see a lot of this, but she wanted to pull on Thursday the classic, you know who actually should win SEC Coach of the Year? I think it might be Nick Saban. In what world would you give the SEC Coach of the Year award to Nick Saban? I feel as if I am taking crazy pills. Do we give it to someone for underachieving? Do we give it to someone for forgetting how to develop talent? Like, we have Eli Drinkwitz out there. We have Eli Drinkwitz about to go 10-2 with an awful roster at a school like Mizzou that never gets there. I mean, I get it. You're going to tell me, oh, this is one of the most inferior teams that Nick Saban's ever coached. Okay. It's inferior. Okay. Have you ever heard of blue chip ratio, Chris? I'm sure you have, right? It's a percentage of 4 and 5 stars that you have on your team at any given time. Okay, let's just look up blue chip ratio in 2023 post transfers. Who leads the country with 88% of the roster being 4 and 5 stars? The Alabama Crimson Tide. Who's second? Ohio State at 81%. Then Georgia at 77%. So it's not even close. You're going to tell me this one of Nick Saban's most inferior teams when it's literally the most blue chip roster he's ever amassed in his life? You're going to tell me that a Nick Saban team that's 9-1 is more deserving than a Mizzou team that's going to go 10-2 when Nick Saban on this roster alone has 18 5 stars, guys, 56 4 stars. Mizzou has signed 5 5 stars in the modern era. In the whole entire modern era, they've signed 5. And Nick Saban is 18 on this game alone. And yet, they're one game away from each other. And yet, Eli Drinkwitz just took that Mizzou team into Athens and gave Georgia everything they want. And you're going to tell me, oh, well, Alabama was bad at the beginning of the year, and look at the improvement. Mizzou fans were booing Brady Cook at the beginning of the year. So, but what about the coaching turnover? They replaced both coordinators. Okay, Mizzou fired their OC and hired a new OC as well. What are we talking about? Nick Saban shouldn't even be second. Lane Kiffin's about to win 10 games in the regular season at Ole Miss, something that had never been done in school history. He's about to do it twice in 3 years. He shouldn't sniff SEC Coach of the Year. He shouldn't sniff National Coach of the Year. I mean, we got Kalen DeBoer out there at Washington. You got John Smith at Oregon State, Dan Lanning at Oregon. And you're going to tell me Nick Saban, a man who underachieved and couldn't win a natty with the best quarterback he's ever had in Bryce Young and Will Anderson coming off the edge, you're going to tell me that guy should win Coach of the Year? Look, he's great at recruiting. He's an incredible coach. But he does, like, if he wins Coach of the Year, it's actually just a commentary that he can't develop his talent anymore. Because you know when football gets easy? When your players are just better than the other teams. It's not that hard to figure out. And every single Saturday Alabama takes the field, they're just better than the other team. So miss me completely, wholly, and unabashedly, and emphatically with that Nick Saban should be Coach of the Year crap. Get out of here. It infuriates me.
So I don't know if you need me for this conversation you're having with yourself or not, but I've caught my breath. I'm going to let you do the same. Here's the thing. I don't disagree with you completely. I think the over-the-top slander of like if you want to get into the blue chip ratio thing, it's my favorite argument with Georgia fans because you hear it all like recruiting season. Oh, these rankings don't matter. These rankings don't matter at all. Surely that we're not going to base off how great a team should be every single year that we see on the field based off of what a bunch of, as you called me, nerds in recruiting offices in the like around the country are saying, yep, that guy's a 4-star. Yep, that guy's a 5-star. Yep, that guy's a 3-star. Surely they don't miss on any of those things, right? At 24/7, or especially, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but especially they probably didn't miss out on any of those rankings for recruits during COVID. I'm sure that all of those things just went swimmingly. That being said, yeah, I mean, like he's got a phenomenal roster. Eli Drinkwitz should win Coach of the Year just because he's got a white running back that's leading the SEC in rushing. Yeah. That's incredible stuff. Jacob Hester's not walking through that door at most places. I think he's done a great job. I do think also, though, it's like we've watched Nick Saban. This is his worst team that he's had in a while. Like he hasn't developed talent, especially at some positions that we've seen in the past. Offensive line to be the most I think obvious of those things.
Yes.
But he has done a great job. It's the earliest loss he's had in over 15 years. They've only had 2 September losses in the last 15 years of the program. He had one of them the second week of the season. I don't know if that him not deserving to win the Coach of the Year means that he needs to be bashed because he has this great roster. But okay.
Look, and to be fair, maybe I am going a bit out of my way when I talk about the lack of development, or I go too far in saying like he's actually slipping. I mean, I don't think I'm crazy because he couldn't win a natty when he had Bryce Young and Will Anderson. And now he doesn't, and he's still not going to win natty. But I mean, you mentioned it, right? Like they're still getting the big time recruits. They just don't seem to be developing at the same rate that they used to. But that's all well and good. I can get it. You can tell me that this is a more flawed Alabama team than they've had in a while, but they're still more talented than 99.9, in fact, 100% of the country. And you can say the recruiting rankings miss and everything, but here's the deal. Individual recruits go boom or bust. Aggregate matters. Like when you look at team rankings, that does is it a coincidence that Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama are top 3 in the blue chip ratio? Right? Like A&M's 4, and that's why Jimbo Fisher got fired. Because it is mind-bogglingly bad that you could have that much talent on a team and be as bad as Texas A&M is. Like, yeah, it turns out if you just get all the best players, you're going to tend to be better football teams than your opponent. So is it a flawed Alabama team? Sure. Has Nick Saban done a good job getting them to improve during the year? Sure. But at the end of the day, Eli Drinkwitz is doing way more with less, and Nick Saban, even if you don't want to accept that he's doing less with more, he's still not maximizing to the same level as some of those other coaches that I rattled off.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I really don't. Listen, I know that I'm a Bama guy, but like, unlike I think 98% of the fan base, I feel like I'm pretty objective and rational most of the time. Most of the time. That being said, like, I don't think that Saban should necessarily win over Eli Drinkwitz, but the idea of you brought up the Bryce Young thing, right? And Will Anderson. First off, I want to correct you. Both those players won national championships while they were at Alabama. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. Technically.
We were finding ways to discredit Nick Saban for winning a national championship when he had Jacob Coker to be the quarterback of his national championship team. He wasn't like bringing in all these Coach of the Year awards then, was he? So all of a sudden now it's like, well, he's got all this talent. We're going to discredit him again, just in a different way. That's fine. Like, I mean, give it to Drink. I think he is very, very deserving of that. But I will say this. If we're talking about a coaching job, one of the things that has really lacked at Alabama over the past couple of years, they've had a generational talent at like quarterback and receiver and offensive line a lot of the times. This is the first year they've come into a season where they haven't had a skill position and an offensive lineman drafted in the first round of the NFL draft in over 5 years. So coming into this year, one of the things they've also had to replace is not just that kind of talent, but like the coaching adjustments in game that they haven't done. Like, whether you want to talk about if that's a bad job he's done in the past, that's totally fair. But they've done a really good job of making the coaching adjustments with 2 new coordinators, and it's been really fun to watch.
Do you hear the Alabama entitlement? Do you know how many schools haven't had? Do you know how many schools haven't had a first-round skill position or a first-round this or that? Like, it just shows you like what feels bad to you is great to other schools, and that's kind of what I'm getting at in all of this. Look, Nick Saban's obviously incredible. He's the Crimson Emperor for a reason. His reign is still not coming to an end. The rumors of his death appears to have been greatly exaggerated. Right? I don't think they beat Georgia. All I'm saying is I'm trying to cut. I'm trying to head this thing off before it gains steam. This idea that, because it is absurd, that Saban should win Coach of the Year.
Sure.
Sam Brief on YouTube chat, can Saban win Coach of the Year when he doesn't go unbeaten? Feels like he has the highest possible standard. That's another thing, right? Like, if you were to give him Coach of the Year this year, it's like you're honoring him for underachieving relative to his own standard. Coach of the Year should go to coaches and programs that overachieve based on their standards. So when Mizzou's like 6 and 7, then yeah, give it to him, or give it to Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss has been garbage. You know, they've had maybe some frisky moments, but Lane Kiffin's about to win 10 games in the regular season, something that had never been done there. He's about to do it 2 of 3 years, potentially. So I'm sorry. Look, I don't. We got a lot to get to. I still want to talk quarterback transfers. I want to talk quarterbacks sticking around and how it relates to transfers. And let's look at some bold projections next here on Rivals Down South. What's happening, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South, youtube.com/Watch Stadium. If you want to get involved and get in the chat there, remember you can also submit videos, watchstadium.com/submit. I'm T-Bob Aber. He is Chris Marler, and we're talking SEC and a trend that is becoming increasingly common. Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin revealed that Jackson Dart will be returning for another year of college football in the SIP. So now we have Carson Beck, rumored to be returning, Quinn Ewers, rumored to be coming back as well. We talked about with Arch Manning and Malik yesterday. You got Jackson Dart, and there's one other one that I'm missing. But the overall point here is this is new, right? We normally don't see this. And there's one new factor where, you know, correlation does not always equal causation, but in this case, I kind of feel like it does. It's the fact that these cats are paid, right? Mm-hmm. These cats are paid. They're loving life. They're famous. They're the big men on campus. They're dominating college football, like doing well at football is fun. And in the past, maybe you were happy, but you had to go because you needed to make money. Well, now you can stick around, you can have fun, you can continue to be the man. College football's way easier than the NFL. You make money, and the NFL will still be there. Like for someone like Carson Beck, I mean, you could become the number 1 overall pick, right? So NIL, another positive benefit for the quality of college football. But here's where I want to go with it, Chris. If you are not already, you have to create an entire wing of your recruiting department where all you do is scout transfer quarterbacks. Because you look at all these guys. What does it mean for a Walker Howard at Ole Miss who could potentially be a graduate transfer pretty soon? We mentioned Arch Manning, Malik. Then you look at Carson Beck. You got Gunnar Stockton, Brock Vandegrift. Like, teams need to be raiding these cabinets the second that they hear that court. That's what happened to Walker Howard and LSU. Jaden Daniels says he's coming back. Walker's like, I'm out. Ole Miss swoops in.
Yeah, there's fewer things that make me feel older than when you just said Walker Howard could be a graduate transfer, because it's like he just got to college, and I don't think it's that far fetched. It's so weird watching what happened at Ole Miss this offseason, because like Dart obviously is a transfer quarterback that was a returning starter. Then you talk about the fact they get Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State and Walker Howard on top of, like, you know, still recruiting elite talent at quarterback position that Lane Kiffin tends to do. I think it's a perfect move for Dart because of the fact that, one, this is a loaded quarterback class going into the NFL draft. I mean, a loaded quarterback class. And I think it makes a lot of sense there. It is also something, like you said, with the NIL, you're not seeing as many kids have to go make that leap to the NFL, especially when they're not ready, which I think that's one thing that really needed to be cleared up and cleaned up in the college game was, you know, some of these juniors that were getting told, you know, by NFL draft, analysts and scouts, and then a lot often there's more agents than anything telling them, like, hey man, you're going to go and make this, and you go undrafted. And we saw it, the number would climb year after year after year. So I think that's something that's a positive of it. Like, this is not a name you mentioned. I'm not saying it because I'm a Bama fan. I'm just saying it because I'm familiar with the number and I saw it today. Jalen Milroe, his NIL valuation from On3 this year was $295,000 at the start of the year. It's at $1.2 million now. Like, that's a ton of money for anyone. Awesome kind of money for a kid, especially like Jalen Milroe. That's and he's only a sophomore. So I think it's a really good pattern that I think is developing with kids who can stay and also develop more. Like Jackson Dart, if you look at just in this offense with Lane Kiffin, the numbers have improved dramatically with his quarterbacks over his time at USC, whether it be at FAU, with Matt Corral at Ole Miss. The numbers, I mean, they improve dramatic amounts from year 1 to year 2. I can't wait to see what it looks like in year 3 with Jackson Dart, and maybe separate himself with a little bit weaker of a quarterback class next year as opposed to this year.
And so, look, I know college football fans are always going to fall in love with the 5-star high school quarterback. But if you look at the data over the last few years, the 5-star almost never sticks around. It's less than 50% of the time. And what do Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, Michael Penix, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers all have in common? 4 of the last 6 Heisman winners, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Caleb, transfers, one and all. It's almost like the more sure thing is to let these guys start to pop on the college level and then try to bring him in to you. So just something to keep an eye on. We may in a few years be talking about transfer quarterbacks way more than we are high school recruiting quarterbacks. All right, it is turkey season, Chris, which I'm very excited for. I cannot wait. And that means it's championship season, which means bowl season is right around the corner. And I still love the bowls, okay? Some don't. I still do. And let's talk about some of the potential matchups that are on the horizon. How does a little Peach Bowl action with a top 10 Mizzou team taking on James Franklin's Penn State Nittany Lions do?
I love that. So I love this for a number of reasons. I think that when you talk about Penn State, like, people have just thrown them under the bus and like kind of like thrown them out and discarded them as like a serious team, because every year it seems like they lose. Like, you could start their season and be like, listen, before you kick it off against Delaware in game 1, what if I just tell you right now, you're going to go 10-2, deal or no deal. You take the 10 wins or you go 8-4. Like, so I think it'd be a fun matchup. I think at Mizzou, man, it'd be a great matchup for them to get against a blue blood at any bowl, because that's a team that people love to not take seriously for no reason. Like, I compared this a couple weeks ago. Mizzou is Nickelback or Creed in the SEC. People just have decided, you know what? Don't like them. And I know that Creed's making a resurgence right now, but like, I don't like them. They're dumb for whatever reason. I love that Mizzou is taking off this year, and I hope they get a blue blood, and I hope they win.
Yeah, like I think Luther Burden could pop off like Marvin Harrison Jr. did. I would take Mizzou in that matchup. I also have no belief Penn State's offense. In the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, it's rumored that Ole Miss and Iowa go toe-to-toe. You want to talk about two warring philosophies here. Look, here's the dirty secret about Iowa, and I love Iowa. I love the old school style. I kind of also believe a lot of Iowa's defensive stats are inflated because Big Ten offenses are hot garbage. Remember, that bad Penn State offense put up 31 against Iowa. Yeah. I think, I'm not being a SEC guy here, I think Ole Miss would win this game.
You know what's even sadder than what you just said is that Iowa put up 74 yards of offense against Penn State in that game. That was an awful. I'm pretty sure that they got we talked about this on the podcast, and I want to say it was like 52 of the 74 yards they had in the whole game came on like the first drive. Like just a miserable 3 hours. I think this would be a lot of fun. I mean, just because of the fact that like it is two different philosophies. I don't know if Iowa's offense could hang with me and you just like after Thanksgiving. So I think that I would take Ole Miss in this one for sure.
And then the ReliaQuest Bowl, formerly the Outback Bowl. How does this sound? I might as well call it the Brian Kelly Bowl. LSU, Notre Dame, and this would be fascinating because I don't know who would play. Like, I would not expect Jaden Daniels to play. Why would he, right? So you would have so much narrative and so much bragging rights riding on a game in which you could have the potential Heisman winner not even playing.
How many more times do we have to see LSU and Notre Dame play? Like, just let them every other season, okay? Yeah. Let them play in a bowl of their choice. The biggest travesty in this game is not getting to see Jaden Daniels another game. It's the fact that the Outback Bowl being changed to the ReliaQuest Bowl, because all I want is to see a big, bald, sweaty Cole Kublik sitting there in the Tampa sun eating a bloomin' onion. God. And, the only person in that entire section watching this game. It would be a fun game, but, that's my biggest gripe.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll never forget Ryan Nanny, Celebrity Hot Tub on Twitter, dressed up as the Bloomin' Onion mascot. But as you get older, things tend to die. Still to come, a pair of SEC teams. That was like kind of a dour way to end the segment. A pair of SEC teams unveiling some cool new uniforms tomorrow. Our favorites coming up next on Rivals. Yo, what's happening, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South. Ooh, look at that. Ole Miss. It's Military Appreciation Day in the SIP, and they got some Navy helmets, the Ole Miss and American flag script, the red jerseys, the gray pants. There are not many things that Ole Miss does right in this world, but uniforms do tend to be one of them. Whereas LSU is going to be busting out a different look as well. The purple unis, the white helmets, white pants, something you generally only see them risk in these kind of cupcake games. They generally keep it pretty traditional, but I don't know, man. I like the white helmets for LSU, but it is far from my favorite uniform in the country. I don't think you would ever guess what my favorite one is. Chris, what's yours in the entire country, non-SEC?
Well, no, I'm going to say it's because you just brought it up. And I said this to Caroline Fenton actually on the podcast last week. The purple jersey, white helmet combo is the best uniform in the country. I don't, not in a rude way, I don't understand the love affair with the LSU like home unis being like one of the best in the country. They're good, but I don't think it's top five. This is the best uniform in the country. This is awesome. I
kind of feel you on that. I do know the reason why LSU doesn't wear purple more. It has superstitious origins. Apparently, like one season they did like awful, and then they just like never went back to it or something.
That's fair.
Bro, I love the Minnesota home uniforms. There is something about that brown and gold. I mean, ooh, I cannot explain it, dude. I don't even know what color it is. Like I can't color match it. I can't give you the swatch number. Burgundy. Okay, yes. Something about that burgundy and gold does something in my loins. It just fills me with blood, and it makes me so pumped. Like, granted, the only time I watched I watched Minnesota, Nebraska to start the season. Maybe I was just horny for football, but like, they're the best uniforms, hands down. Hey, Chris Marler, thank you so much. You have a great weekend. Best of luck with everybody's bets this week, and we'll see you Monday.
I am uncomfortable.